just moved back into a hotel. We had like downloaded the episodes of Game of Thrones that we had missed, right? We were gonna catch up, and it was like the first day off we'd had in weeks where we weren't running around doing all this stuff because we just had to pump the brakes and source some more materials, make some phone calls to set things up for tomorrow. And we're sitting in this hotel, and it's like in a courtyard, right? So you come in off the alleyway of the street, and you come into this courtyard, and there's like some other businesses and restaurants and in this courtyard. And we're sitting in there, it's like the second floor, and all of a sudden it's like boom, just like one quick shake, and then it starts going again. And, Carrie's in her underwear, and I'm like, we just got out of the shower, and we're like standing in the doorway again. But this time we can see this courtyard, right? And there are these giant, 500-gallon water tanks sitting on top of this roof. Like, I'm just waiting for it to come down and like smash this entire...
flood the courtyard.
Yeah, flood the courtyard. And every person we know is just every person that is like in our group now, we're all staying in this hotel, they're all running past us. All the other travelers are running downstairs and people are falling. And that was the most terrifying one. That was by far the most terrifying one because we were out of the woods, right? We felt like we were out of the woods.
Yeah, it's all good now.
It's all good now. That can't happen again, right?
Ugh.
And that was the scariest. That's the scariest thing we've ever encountered. Never anything with people or animals or anything like that. But that was...
Yeah. Nature is scariest son of a bitch out there, right?
Yeah. Never any, like, scary, violent moments. We've never been, like, knock on wood. That's IKEA. That's not real wood.
Yeah, that's...
I'll knock on this. But yeah, nothing with like people or muggings or robberies or anything like that. We've always just had really good. We've been ripped off a few times, but
yeah, it is what it is.
Hindsight is 2020.
That was one of the ones I was just reading up on. Was your 18 myths about Thailand?
Oh yeah.
Great article.
Well, it's just a silly. Thailand's such a silly place because it's great. It's a great place, and if you like Thai food, you can just spin yourself around. The food is so delicious. The people are so nice, but it's popular for good reason, and it's just inundated with tourists. I mean, it's a huge part of their GOP.
Yeah,
tourism. But it has like this own. Southeast Asia has this own weird sort of backpacker culture, right? They call it the banana pancake trail or something like that, right? Because it's just such an easy life. Everything's so cheap. Sun's out all the time. And there's just a million places to go and see. And people go there and they get caught up. And people are like, I'm never leaving this place.
Yeah.
Or you get people that aren't like that in their normal life and they come there for a week and they're like,
done.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
And then they're like, they buy the elephant pants that are in every souvenir stand, and they've got on the Chang beer shirt, and like, they've got like they got beads in their hair now, and it's like they're, they only listen to Bob Marley now.
Yeah.
They're completely changed people, and there's just like such a scene of like, backpackers have their own culture, and they all sort of like, there's the different types of backpackers, and Thailand and that Southeast Asia definitely has a certain type of that they attract. It's an easy place to backpack, and people are comfortable there, and they're comfortable like letting go and being in the moment, and kind of being affected by it. I guess that's kind of a cool thing, but it also creates some, just some silly behavior by some people, and we were just kind of having some fun with that.
Yeah.
Which is, sometimes with the blogging stuff, you start to take yourself and it so seriously, you want to like pull back and just be like, oh, I also have a personality. I also have some funny thoughts. Not everything has to be business. It could just be entertaining.
Yeah. That's speaking of that, what got you into the beer review thing? And by the way, now knowing that you were in television, it makes it so much more sense.
You're less impressed now.
No, I was just sitting there looking at it going, this production is amazing. Like, the zooming, just the camera work and everything. I was just going, I know you're shooting it by yourselves doing this, but the Hawaiian one I watched like 3 times in a row just to watch like the moves, the camera moves, and being behind the bar, watching each pull.
Well, that does help, and thank you for saying so. I'm glad a lot of people seem more impressed now with the fact that we're able to get a lot of free beers and try a lot of beers, but just out there, and people are like, oh, it looks so great, which I appreciate, and it's really fun to do. I've always loved beer. I didn't drink or anything in high school, but like the second I went to college, I just was like a fucking madman. Like couldn't drink enough beer.
Yeah.
You know, and so college was a lot of. That's when my love for beer started, right? But that was back in the day when like there was only Henry Weinhard's, right?
Yeah.
I was always intrigued by, you know, this like Henry Weinhard's and these different, you know, like Sam Adams start coming out. And it's like, okay, well, maybe you don't have to drink Busch Light today. You know, I got into that idea very early, like the second I hit 21. I was like, what if I buy a six-pack of something that doesn't suck?
Yeah.
And then, we've all, you know, cut to 15 years later, it's just this crazy booming industry.
Yeah.
And we've just always, my dad, my brother, and I were like these very, we're like, what do you want to do today? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do today? Well, I don't know. And then we're like, oh, now there's like something we can go and do that we can all sort of enjoy, but we can all go there and have an experience. We don't necessarily have to talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
So craft beer just kind of became something that over the course of this last 15 years that like my brother, my dad, Carrie and I, our friends, you know, it's the new wine tasting as far as I'm concerned. I mean, breweries are everywhere, but they're the new pubs, right? That's what people are going for. When you go to Australia or England or Ireland or these places that have this pub culture, right? That's like where people go to gather. It's not about going out and getting smashed. It's like, hey, let's all meet down at the pub and have this social thing, right? Like instead of, it's not like here where you're like, you know, your wife's like, I don't feel like cooking. You're like, let's throw the kids in the car and go to Red Robin, right? And then you go to Red Robin and you eat and then you come home.
Yeah, you're not talking to the people next to you.
Right. But the pub culture is that.
Yeah.
You know, you go down to the pubs and like sometimes we've gone with locals or we've stayed with locals. They go down to the pub and they fucking know everybody.
Yeah.
And they're shaking hands and talking about so-and-so and all scuttlebutting and all this stuff. Like, and you're like, what a weird, cool thing. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not a PTA meeting. It's not a kid's soccer game. It's not all these things that bring adults and stuff together like we know it from our suburban, you know, Washington upbringings, you know. It's this really kind of magical community gathering place.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And that's what breweries have kind of become. Which I've always loved that. Like the first time I went to England, I did a couple trips to Europe with some buddies before Carrie and I started traveling, and like I can remember one of our friends from he didn't live in LA, but he went to Wazoo, and then he would always come down to visit, and then he married a British girl, and then they moved over there to this little town north of London called Harpenden, and then our friend Tommy and his wife Kim, we went and stayed with them in like their little apartment, their little flat, like over the family, you know, auto parts store or whatever.
Yeah.
And they took us to the pub, and I just remember it was so cool because they knew everyone, like friends were coming in and all this kind of stuff, and I was just like, wow, what a cool thing. And then we went to Australia and we got to meet a lot of people there, and they were always like, oh, come on down to the pub, and they, you know, and it's cool. And now that's starting to happen here.
Yeah.
You know, go down to Skookum in Arlington on a Friday night. I mean, that place is like an anthill.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And it's awesome. And so I've always just sort of had a love for that. The fact that you can get good beer that's not, you know, I could probably drink like 50 Bud Lights and not, I've built up a tolerance. I'm like, it just tastes like a postage stamp, and I'm not drunk. I'm just like full.
Yeah.
And like
I'm
tired.
peeing a lot.
Yeah, I'm peeing a lot. I'm tired. So it's nice that artisan movement has kind of gone towards that, and the craftsmanship and people taking pride in it. But I also like how it's kind of localized.
Yeah.
Because it's also something that when you... Well, okay, so I'll just finish this part and say the reason we started doing the beer review things is because we were trying to look away since being home and not having that travel and tending to our duties here to be able to still bring something to people.
Gotcha. And
share something, because the beer culture here is incredible.
Yeah.
And you go to other countries and they don't have that. They don't have this variety. It's starting to catch on, and craft brew is starting to catch on everywhere. But it's also a cool way to. I still want to inspire people, internationally. We have a lot of readers and followers that are international and stuff like that. But also just people around here, just be like, that's what we do. Like on a rainy Saturday, we're like, let's go to Bellingham. Let's just go to all the breweries.
Yeah.
Let's go to Everett and just check them out because it's like an activity.
Yeah.
And it's fun, and they always are rotating new beers. So it was something that's like, how can we make this something we can do? And because it's a somewhat controlled environment, it's an easy way to shoot some video.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and it's awesome. And the quality of it, like we were saying at the beginning, the equipment now is so good. We just have this little thing called an Osmo. It's a 4K camera, and it has what they call a gimbal, so it has 3 motors, right? It turns on this axis, and then it rotates like this, and all these little motors just keep it. So you could literally run. I could be running next to you, and it looks like a movie
grip
tracking shot. You know what I mean?
No shit.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's $500. It's
so it's automated
affordable.
too, so it will.
It does it all on its own. It just does it. I mean, you do have to it does have some nuance to it, but it's not. I'm not a camera operator.
Yeah.
It has some limitations. It doesn't necessarily handle light differences very well. It doesn't zoom or anything.
Yeah.
But for what we're doing right now, it's very easy. I mean, they use Osmos on professional shoots to shoot B-roll or cutaway shots and things like that because it's easy and cheap and it looks awesome. So we were like, let's invest in one of those, and then we'll come up with these things. And then we also do the photos, best photo spots. That's another video piece we've been doing, and I just shoot that on my phone. I have a Google Pixel phone.
Yeah.
Shoots 4K. I plug it into this. So I have a little grip that has a little slot for a microphone on it, and we just shoot it on that.
No shit.
Because we're a little more on the go with that, and it's always a little more out in public, and that thing's just a bit easier.
Yeah.
And then I go home and edit on some software that I stole off the internet because I'm cheap. And,
well, that's when I started doing this. This is all cheap, free.
Right, because you're like, is this going to be an endeavor that I want to invest in? What's my level of involvement?
I got the idea from another podcast, a buddy of mine's podcast. He had a guest on, and they were talking about how they started theirs, and it was, hey, we're going to commit to putting out one a week for a year and a half,
right,
to gauge it.
Yeah.
If there's a following, if this is something that works, we'll know by then. And that's when I was like, then I discovered how fucking hard it is to do one a week.
Right. It's just time consuming.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to write a piece with it. Like today, I'm doing a brew review. When we were in Hawaii, we did a couple of breweries. And so the one that we just posted, the Big Island Brewing Company, right? We tasted 18 beers.
Yeah.
Right? It was a huge thing. And that took me about 6 to 8 hours to do with all the graphics and putting everything in and viewing the footage and picking the music and all. I mean, everything takes time, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't. It's not like you're just order them, drop the music in, and then you're you got to go and you got to check the spelling on everything. Check the pronunciation. You got to be are the cuts happening on the right beats? Is this the right music? Is this the right tone? Is this the best take?
Well, that's why it looks so good, because you pay attention to all that shit.
But that shit takes time. It takes me a whole day, and then I have to write a blog that goes with it.
Yep.
And you can pound that out, and I'm checking my fucking drunken notes. I don't have good handwriting anyway, so you can imagine after 18 beers what they probably look like.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to decipher those, and then I'm pounding those in. I'm also the worst. I must have the most inaccurate typing skills of anyone on the face of the earth.
I still am.
I can go, but I look back and I'm like, who wrote this? Who wrote this? All the ofs or ons, and I'm just what was I thinking?
Yeah.
But that all takes time.
Yeah.
And by the time you're okay, did the video, did the blog post. I started on Tuesday. It's Friday now.
Yeah.
How much am I getting paid for this? Oh, nothing. Maybe someone will want to give me a free flight of beer, which is super cool.
Yeah.
But that's the tough thing about the blog, right? Is how can I monetize this, and how can I sell myself?
Yeah, and that's been the toughest thing is to make. I'm not even looking to make money off of it. I want to break even.
Right. It's a fun hobby. Sure.
And I want to make this. Hey, Wednesday night, Thursday night, sitting in the garage is a fun thing to do.
Right.
Shit. This one is a little less fun, so you can get hammered if you want. But
right.
This came from Justin's.
Is that recent?
When
that scar on your head?
When Justin was in here doing this, we turned off the mics and